A new Railtour train had just arrived at Knapford. The engine's name was King George V. He had Brunswick green paint and a big brass bell on his front. Later, Toby went up to the visiting engine. "Hello, I'm Toby," said the steam tram. "I see you've got a bell. I've got one too." King George V laughed. "I can see that," he said. "I am King George V. Funny thing about this bell, I actually got it when I went to America. Did you know? All the engines over there have to have one." "Really?" said Toby. He was impressed. Just then, Thomas puffed by with Annie and Clarabelle. "Hello, Thomas," said Toby. "Have you met King George V yet? He's been all the way to America." Thomas looked at the big engine and frowned. "He should have stayed there to be a museum piece," he huffed crossly, and puffed away. King George looked puzzled. What was all that about? He wondered. "Oh dear," said Toby. "You'll have to excuse him. You see, we had another visitor with a royal name, and she was rude to Thomas. I imagine he thinks you'll be the same way." King George looked hurt. "I'd never look down on another engine because of my name," he said. "I'll try to warm up to him. Then he'll see that we royals are just like any other engine." But that was easier said than done. The next morning, Thomas was at the platform waiting to take his first train when King George puffed up beside him. "Hello, Thomas," he said in his most cheery voice. "I am King George V. It is very nice to meet you." Thomas huffed and looked away. "You know," King George continued, "yesterday I think we got off on the wrong foot. How about we try again, eh?" Thomas didn't answer. "I understand you've had an issue with the royal engine in the past," King George continued. "But I want to assure you that it's pronounced issue." "What?" "I said it's pronounced issue," said Thomas. "Honestly, if you want to be friendly with me, you'll have to not sound like an upper-class twit." And Thomas puffed away. For the rest of the day, King George tried as hard as he could to get Thomas to warm up to him. But nothing seemed to work. At last, King George gave it up. He felt exhausted. Toby tried to cheer him up. "It's a shame, Toby," King George said. "My train is due out this evening for the mainland, and I don't want to leave on bad terms." "You know," said Toby, "perhaps regaling a tale from your working days might pique Thomas's interest, possibly find some common ground." King George thought. "Apart from my trip to America," he said, "nothing really substantial happened to me." "So you've never raced a bus?" "No." "Fallen down a mine?" "No." "Crashed into a station master's house?" "No." "Found fish in your tanks?" "No." "Not even been in trouble with the police?" "Can't say that I have," said King George. That night, King George was soon making his way back to Knapford to take his Railtour train home. But as he approached the platform, the big engine saw something peculiar. "Brakes, driver!" he called, and King George ground to a halt. "What's all this for?" asked the driver. "Look," said King George, "over there near the platform. Someone's waving lights about. It could mean danger." "Stuff and nonsense," said the driver. "The distant signal was clear, wasn't it?" King George frowned. "One of my brothers was in a terrible crash at Norton Finch Warren because he passed a danger signal," he huffed. "I'm not moving until I know it's safe." The driver sighed and went to telephone for help. Meanwhile, at the station, the passengers were becoming anxious. They could see King George in the distance standing on the line. "What on earth could he be sitting there for?" asked the Railtour manager. "This is very unlike him to keep us waiting." The Fat Controller agreed. He turned to Thomas. "Thomas," he said, "go and see what's preventing King George from coming to the station." Thomas made a face. "That engine's no good, sir," he sniffed. "All engines named after royalty are. He can jolly well sit there." "Thomas!" exclaimed Toby. "I'm ashamed of you. What of the passengers? Do they deserve to be left stranded here?" Thomas soon changed his mind. "Oh no," he peeped, "not the passengers. I completely forgot." And off he went to see King George. Thomas soon reached where King George was standing. "King George," said Thomas, "why aren't you at the station? Your train must leave soon. Everyone is waiting." "I would," said King George, "but there's some sort of flashing light near the platform. I think it's a warning signal." Thomas was puzzled. "I didn't see any lights," he said. Just then, King George's driver came hurrying up. "I've just received word from Knapford," he said. "The station master said that he found 2 boys playing with torches near the platform." "So that's what I saw," said King George. Now the big engine felt silly. "Oh dear," he said. "I've never had anything like this happen before." Thomas thought for a moment. "I think I've done worse," he said. "Once I was set to pull a train but forgot about the coaches. I was so embarrassed." Both engines laughed. "I'm sorry I was rude," said Thomas. "I suppose royal-named engines are just like any other engine." "Oh, that's all right," said King George. "There's been a history of us royals getting too puffed up in the smoke box. Why, I remember a time I met Duchess of Sutherland. Now she was a right mess." "Never mind about that," said the driver. "Remember, you've got a train to pull." And with that, the 2 friends made their way back to Knapford.